Sir Keir Starmer has indicated that Labour is going to block a legal ban on first cousins being able to marry in England and Wales. Why is that? Is the Prime Minister in favour of interbreeding?
Well, I think these issues arise. I don't, think we're going to adopt that position on this question. I'm not aware of him being so definite on that.
So you will block this?
Well, I don't think we're planning a legal change on whatever the current position is on that at the moment. Not that I'm aware of.
Did you see Pat McFadden's face when asked about first cousin marriages? A Labour shadow minister left stuttering and sweating on live television, unable to answer a simple yes or no question about whether cousins should marry each other. This 2-minute clip exposes everything wrong with Starmer's Labour Party. While they claim to champion women's rights and child welfare, they refuse to condemn practices that increase birth defects by 400%. The hypocrisy is staggering, and what comes next in the interview is even more revealing.
Sorry, what position are you adopting on first cousins marrying? What position is Labour adopting on the issue of whether first cousins should marry in England and Wales? Should they or shouldn't they?
Well, I'm not aware of our plans to change the current law at the moment on that question. If we are planning to change the law, and I promise I'll come back on your programme and talk to you about it.
So, at the moment, it's not legally banned for first cousins to marry in England and Wales, despite the obvious health implications of interbreeding.
Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favour. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now back to the video. We're witnessing what may go down as one of the most painfully awkward political interviews in recent British history. Labour's Pat McFadden found himself squirming under questioning that should have been straightforward for any politician with a moral compass. The exchange began innocently enough, but quickly spiraled into a masterclass in political evasion.
Richard Holden is suggesting a legal ban on first cousins marrying, and at the moment it looks like Labour might block that. Why? Labour cannot possibly be in favour of first cousins marrying, can they?
But as of today, I'm not aware that we're planning a legal change on that issue.
OK, but do you think first cousins should be able to marry in England and Wales?
I'm not planning to change the law on that right now.
But Mr McFadden, what do you think? Should they be allowed
then
to?
I'll come back on.
But should they be allowed to? It's a simple yes or no question. I don't think first cousins should be able to marry in England and Wales. What do you think?
When the interviewer posed what seemed like a simple question, should first cousins be allowed to marry? What makes this interview particularly revealing is how methodically the interviewer cornered McFadden. She didn't immediately go for the jugular, but instead gradually tightened her line of questioning. When first asked about cousin marriages, McFadden immediately retreated to his first line of defense. I don't think we're planning to change the law on that right now. Notice the careful wording, not a yes or no, but a non-answer, couched in political jargon about current legislative priorities. The physical tells were impossible to miss. As the questioning intensified, McFadden's discomfort manifested in classic signs of evasion. He shifted uncomfortably in his seat, as if physically trying to distance himself from the question. The eye contact that politicians are trained to maintain suddenly became sporadic. These aren't the actions of someone confident in their position. They're the reflexive behaviors of someone caught in a trap of their own making. What makes this exchange particularly fascinating is the contrast between the interviewer's straightforward persistence and McFadden's increasingly desperate dodging.
Do you think first cousins should be able to marry in England and Wales?
You're the first person ever to ask me the question.
OK, so answer it.
When the government's got a position of changing the law, I'll happily come back and talk to you about it.
But what do you think?
Well, that's the current law as it stands, I think. We're not planning to change the law on that. As far as I know, if there's a change in that and the government decides to change the law.
While she calmly restated her question, seeking clarity on a matter with serious health implications, McFadden deployed every deflection technique in the political handbook. he claimed ignorance about his own party's position, a remarkable admission for a senior Labour figure. He attempted to pivot away from the specific question to broader, safer topics. When those tactics failed, he acted as if the question was somehow unprecedented or bizarre, despite it addressing a legitimate public health concern. McFadden's evasiveness becomes even more telling when you understand the context of the interviewer's questions. She wasn't merely asking about an abstract cultural practice, but highlighting serious health concerns. Cousin marriages significantly increase the risk of genetic disorders and birth defects, a medical fact that McFadden seemed determined to avoid acknowledging. His reluctance to engage with this aspect of the question speaks volumes about Labour's priorities. This diplomatic dance around cousin marriages reveals a deeper political calculation. Labour's electoral strategy includes maintaining support in areas with significant South Asian populations, where cousin marriages may be culturally accepted. The party seems caught in a painful dilemma: acknowledge the medical evidence and risk alienating certain cultural communities, or dodge the question and appear indifferent to preventable health risks affecting children. McFadden chose the latter, prioritizing political expedience over straightforward public health messaging. The interview exposes the uncomfortable reality behind Labour's approach to culturally sensitive topics. It's part of a pattern we've seen before: Labour politicians twisting themselves into rhetorical pretzels rather than taking clear positions on issues where cultural practices conflict with other considerations like public health or women's rights. The result is a peculiar form of political paralysis, where basic questions cannot receive basic answers. What's particularly troubling about McFadden's performance is that it isn't an isolated incident but reflects a broader approach. Under Keir Starmer's leadership, Starmer has established a pattern of carefully avoiding discussions that might be perceived as culturally insensitive, regardless of the legitimate concerns at stake. This interview simply brings that strategy into sharp, uncomfortable focus, with McFadden left floundering when his prepared talking points offered no escape route. The medical consensus on cousin marriages makes this political tap dancing all the more concerning. Research consistently shows increased risks of genetic disorders in children born from cousin marriages, yet Labour appears unwilling to acknowledge this scientific reality. The question becomes unavoidable: is Labour placing political correctness and electoral strategy above the welfare of children who might suffer preventable medical conditions? The McFadden interview perfectly illustrates modern Labour's greatest failing: their willingness to sacrifice vulnerable children on the altar of political correctness. Medical professionals have made it crystal clear there's an ethical responsibility to prevent birth defects by addressing harmful cultural practices, including cousin marriages. Yet Labour remains paralysed, unable to take a stand. What other harmful practices might they turn a blind eye to for electoral convenience? The same research highlighting concerns about cousin marriages also notes political debates surrounding forced marriages and female genital mutilation. Will Labour demonstrate similar cowardice when confronted about these practices? The pattern is unmistakable. When faced with choosing between protecting vulnerable populations and avoiding offence to certain voting blocs, Labour consistently chooses political expediency. This isn't just about one interview or one issue. It's about fundamental principles. If Labour can't even answer a straightforward question about protecting children from preventable birth defects, can they really be trusted to protect your interests?